The top 10 most busted banned monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Big dog, as you guys should already know, not all Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are created equal. In fact, they're created very differently from one another. So different that sometimes these cards have to be banned. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the strongest monsters to have ever existed in Yu-Gi-Oh! So strong that they had to make it to the ban list, and we're also going to be explaining why. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Alright, so before we jump into these top 10 banned monsters, we of course have to establish a criteria. In order for this monster to make the video, not only does it have to be banned at one point in time on the Master Duel, TCG, or OCG forbidden list, it also had to be a card to create a major problem. As you guys already know, there are some cards that are unbanned in certain territories, but aren't as problematic for a particular reason, like Maxi. The card still can qualify so long as it was banned for a really good reason. Another thing that I'm going to take into consideration for this video is the reason that it was banned and how long it was banned. In actuality, the card doesn't need to be on the current ban list to be considered. So if you guys have a card that fits this criteria, go ahead and let us know down below in the comment section, what do you think that card should be? And of course, big dog, if you like these type of videos, because I genuinely love making these type of videos, be sure to like this video and share with a friend. And if you want to support monetarily, consider joining my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors. But let's go ahead and start off with the top 10, as I've already spoiled it. Maxi is my number 10 card. Granted, this is a card that is not banned in the OCG or Master Duel, but this is a card that comes in contention as one of the most hated cards in the history of the game. Maxi really needs no introduction. By discarding this card, you can draw every single time your opponent special summons. This could have been incredibly balanced, but unfortunately, due to how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is made, if you want to play a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck, then you must special summon, and in mass. It often creates a situation where if you get Maxi and you can't stop it, well, you have two decisions. You can summon enough times to give your opponent the resources for them to beat you, or you cannot summon enough times for your opponent to beat you. It's easily one of the most busted and insane Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in the game, and thankfully, it's on the ban list in the TCG. Now, Maxi is just the entree, the beginning stages of what are busted Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. Take, for example, the next spot is actually occupied by 3 different monsters because more or less they do the exact same thing. Dandelion, Blackwing Gofu the Shadow, and number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk all more or less do the same thing. They generate monsters to your side of the field, and in some cases, they can feel almost infinite. You see, Token Summoning's original design was for synchro monsters. Being able to get monsters to your side of the field in mass and pair them with a tuner gives you a quick synchro summon to the monster that you need. Unfortunately though, when the link mechanic rolled around, it took it just a little too far. Using those tokens to continuously cycle monsters to your side of the field essentially meant that you can summon link monsters from your extra deck to your side of the field for free. And if I were to add a 4th card here, it would 100% have to go to Level Eater. This is another busted monster that can almost infinitely summon itself to the side of the field, so long as you're summoning strong monsters to your field. At its time, Level Eater was also a card that was introduced to promote synchro summoning, but unfortunately, since it's not once per turn and just so happens to be an effect monster, the link mechanic can easily abuse this better than any other strategy could ever. Next is a card that was introduced on Yu-Gi-Oh!'s first ban list and has been banned for 21 years. I don't think that this card is ever coming off the ban list. When I say Magical Scientist easily deserves to be there. Magical Scientist states that at the cost of 1,000 life points, you can special summon 1 fusion monster to your side of the field. Now, that fusion monster has to be level 6 and lower and can attack your opponent directly and is also returned to the extra deck at the end of the turn. What kind of restrictions are those? Keep in mind, Magical Scientist was banned 21 years ago when the fusion pool was incredibly limited. It was 2004. Imagine in 21 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Level 6 and lower fusion monsters being easily accessed. It's almost like there's a spell card on the ban list that does does a similar thing, but can't use its effect multiple times in a turn and just so happens to be limited. I wonder what that cup of noodles is. Originally, Magical Scientist was banned simply because when you pair it with a card like Catapult Turtle, you could tribute enough monsters to be able to win the game. In today's modern era of Yu-Gi-Oh, with it being a spellcaster monster whose attack matches its defense and also being a level 1 dark monster, it has the perfect stats to be able to fuel some type of crazy FTK. And speaking of fusion summoning as well as FTK, there's another monster that makes this list. It's kind of crazy because this card has an even bigger cost, was banned, then unbanned, then promptly banned again. Cyberstein is one of the most ridiculous monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the cost of 5,000 life points, you can special summon any fusion monster you want. Now, in case you guys didn't know, Cyberstein is actually not a cyber card. Its newest updated text says that this card is not treated as a cyber card, so no synergy when cybers get support. Cybers, oh god, I just realized that. That's crazy. The reason why Cyberstein was originally banned is because players were summoning Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon at the cost of 5,000 life points to summon a 4,500 attack monster, but when you pair it with the spell card Megamorph, doubling the attack of your Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, you in fact have enough to be able to attack for game in a lot of situations. It's also crazy because Cyberstein oftentimes puts you in the life point deficit for Megamorph to be able to work. Now that may seem really silly, but back in the day, that was actually a legitimate strategy. Someone actually won a championship using that method, and promptly, Cyberstein created the first emergency ban list, banning the card in the process. Later on, it was taken off of the ban list to fall to mediocrity until Super Heavy Samurai got a hold of this card. And players started to realize you can summon Noturia Exterio to your side of the field for just a measly 5,000 life points. But enough of picking on some of the old school Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I think it's time to talk about the new school, because trust me, there's way more toxicity there. If you thought that summoning monsters from your extra deck in mass was a genuine problem, well, take no further than Christian Hoclefibrix. Hoclefibrix was the cheapest synchro monster ever made, needing only a tuner and a non-tuner, but not requiring certain levels. Not only could this monster summon any tuner monster from your deck, but also you could morph Christian Hoclefibrix into a tuner synchro monster, which could synchro summon on your opponent's turn. It doesn't seem incredibly problematic, but when you combine it with cards like Link Cross, then you have 2-card combos that allow you to be able to synchro summon and link summon into some of the most powerful cards in the game. To double down on it, players often link summon into Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon to provide more tokens to the side of the field. This gave them easy access to some of the most powerful cards in the game that are also banned, like Baron DeFleur, Borreload Savage Dragon, Appaloosa Bull of the Goddess, and Thunder Dragon Colossus easily. If I'm keeping it honest with you, the flexibility of this card was way too good, because even with those cards banned, the fact that Christian Hoclefibrix can do so much as well as provide excellent link fodder, it just proves that Konami did not know what they were doing when they were designing cards for Dual Overload. Especially seeing that I am not done with cards from Dual Overload. Not one, not two, but 3 cards from Dual Overload have proven to be ridiculously busted. An incoming Union Carrier. Union Carrier was a card that allows you to be able to equip a monster from your deck to the same type of a monster that you control. It seems like a really, really innocent card. And then you start to realize that the game that we're playing is Yu-Gi-Oh! And players always figure out some degenerate way to use it. At first, players were using Union Carrier to be able to equip Block Dragon to their rock monsters so they can get the card into rotation. Not really that bad. But then players figured out that they can equip Dragon Buster the Destruction Sword to any of their dragon monsters to prevent the opponent from special summoning from the extra deck. Union Carrier becomes incredibly problematic because it's generic and there are so many cards you have to watch out for. I'm pretty sure if Union Carrier were to ever come back off the Forbidden List, some player would figure out a ridiculous FTK with it or some type of lock that originally couldn't be done, now made because of this card. Now at this point, I'm pretty sure I've given you way too many cards. Technically, on top of the cards that I've mainly featured, I've given you Baron, Borreload, Link Cross, Block Dragon, and a host of other cards. We're actually past 10. But I think that it's right to finish this video off with one last proper card. a card that just about everybody hates in Yu-Gi-Oh! And can relate to Christian Hocklefibrex. You remember when I said Christian Hocklefibrex can easily special summon a Synchro Tuner to the side of the field, which in turn allows you to Synchro summon on your opponent's turn? I'm not saying that it wasn't always possible to do that, it very was, but it was a lot harder considering that Synchro Tuner monsters require the correct levels and a tuner and non-tuner. But players were actually using this card to be able to summon Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, another Floodgate-like Synchro monster, to end your opponent's turn. The really weird thing about this is that Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity is a fair Yu-Gi-Oh card, and it's not because I'm Black Atlas. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Calamity could only use its effect when it's summoned, and throughout most of its history, it would only be able to be summoned on your turn. But Christian Hocklefibrex was the very start of this card being summoned on your opponent's turn. You see, Hulk isn't the reason why this card was on the ban list. In fact, Hulk was promptly banned and this card stayed off the ban list for quite some time. It wasn't until Crimson Dragon was released and players figured out that they could use Crimson Dragon to target another 12 dragon monster on their side of the field and turn it into Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Calamity on the opponent's turn. This bypassed all of the requirements for King Calamity and made it one of the most busted cards, a card that sits on the ban list to this day because of Crimson Dragon. Now, if I'm being honest with you, even if Crimson Dragon were banned, the card probably still shouldn't come off the list, because somewhere down the line, Konami is either going to make another huge mistake or some bozo is going to figure out a way to summon it on your opponent's turn. And that's where we sit, where we talk about some of the most busted banned Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the history of the game. Of course, there are actually some other ridiculously dangerous Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I probably should start talking about. Maybe you want me to go over the monsters again. Maybe there's some spells and trap cards you think I should talk about. As always, let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think? And also, be sure to check out these videos so I can catch you on the next one.